Today, we're talking about mastering the art of copywriting. So if you want to deliver massive results for your copy clients so you can charge more money, or if you want to sell more of your products or services as a business, then you must know how to write copy that sells like crazy. In this video, I'm going to walk you through my 5 favorite techniques that help me improve my copywriting skills and deliver my clients massive results, even as a complete beginner. After watching this video, I guarantee you'll find writing copy that sells becomes a norm. And once you start doing that, delivering clients results won't be an issue. So you can charge way more money. Or if you're a business owner, having launches that bomb is not going to be an issue as well. My name is Lana, and I've been freelance copywriter over the last 5 years, and I've generated my clients millions of dollars in revenue. I work with some of the top influencers in financial space. I wrote copy for Mike Tyson's products, and I work with 7- and 8-figure businesses writing copy that generated over $100,000 in one day. So on that note, let's dive in. The first technique is active studying. Now, if you are a complete beginner, you're going to love this one because when it comes to writing copy that sells, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to sit down and stare at the blank screen and wondering what the heck do you even start. The best way to learn how to write copy that sells like crazy is by actively studying existing copy. But here's what a lot of people, especially beginners, go wrong. They usually do one of two things. They either hand copy the old school sales letter from Gary Halbert or, these similar ones, or they just read any type of copy that they come across. And they do that because a lot of gurus have told them to do that. But I have a much better and faster way to go from being a complete beginner to writing copy that delivers your clients massive results. And I call this active studying. Studying copy this way is what allowed me to go from zero to making $5,600 a month and being hired on the spot by 3 of my first clients. So this technique is very simple. You first find a piece of copy out in the wild. You then actively study. And by actively studying, what I mean is you first read the copy, and then you retype it in a separate Google Doc. And as you go along, you pay attention to the structure, the words, and everything else that they use. The first piece of copy you study, you won't probably notice a whole lot. But as you keep going, you'll notice patterns, and it's these patterns is what you are looking for. So let me show you an example of how active studying looks like. So here's an example I wrote for a client. Okay, so copy studying is very simple. So let's open one of the emails by, let's say, Biotrust, right? Let's see, something like this, right? It's a very long email, which is great because it's going to help us study things quite a lot. So let's now open a document, and this is how I've been doing that, and this is how I suggest my students will do that. Let's see, we'll open this. So you'll split your screen in two. Okay, very simple. Okay. And so from there, and obviously, ideally you want to sort of copy and paste this into a separate document, or if you have a bigger screen. But here's what I do. I literally will start retyping whatever the heck I'm reading, right? So for example, keto results without doing the keto diet, okay? Now, and then I go with the body, right? But before I do that, I'm looking at results. I'm looking at the subject line. And so what do I see, right? We have here keto results without doing the keto diet. So even from here, what I'm thinking about, okay, like, what is this thing trying to do? Like, what is the subject line trying to do? Now, one of the things about subject line is that we are but the main goal is to open the email. And therefore, what I'm looking at is like, okay, like what are the sort of ways or tactics they potentially have been using right now when you just new and you don't really know a whole lot, you might not really, be able to notice some of the certain things, but that's sort of okay, right? But here, like we look in the word, we see the word without, right? But we also see that people, what they playing around with the idea that, people want to have quick results because keto results are quick results, right? But they don't want to do everything that keto diet stands for, which is basically removing all of the, yummy foods such as bread and pasta and pizza, right? Which tells me, okay, like this is a really good subject line because it tells them what they want, right? It promises what they want without doing what, they don't want to do, okay? Then from there, I'm just retagging, right? Hey, Royal Jill Marianne here, co-founder of nutrition. Okay. So then as I'm typing, what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out, okay, like what is my initial reaction to this, right? And I see that they have right here, like introduction, hey, this is blah, 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 co-founder with an important question. So what this, why is this changing? So what does this sort of one sentence do to me as a reader, right? Now it commands my attention. So I'm like, okay, this is a great opening, right? So I make a note. This commands my attention, okay? And I make a note about it. And then I go about the next one, right? What if, what if you could enjoy many of the key benefits of elevated ketones in your body, the major, I don't know why I'm speaking of the somewhat of an accent, driver of keto diet, such as such as supporting appetite control, okay, metabolic support, elevated daily energy, and great mental clarity. Okay. So now, what do I see here? Sometimes I'll reread it a couple of times, right? But I will make a step after each sentence. And I think, okay, what are they doing here, right? So they are asking a question, right? Which is the question of like a possibility, right? What if you could enjoy many of the key benefits of elevated ketones in your body, which is, like the measure of keto diet, such as supporting appetite control, metabolic support, elevated daily energy and great mental clarity. So I'm assuming, right, since they are asking a question of a possibility, what if it could be, blah, blah, you could enjoy these things. They are providing potentially the things that the outcomes that the audience want, right? So what I'll do here is like they started with a question. I'll make offering a possibility of something that the audience want. Okay, so now, okay, now obviously I know these things because I have been doing it for quite some time. But even when I was just starting, I was like, oh, like this is interesting. Like they sort of started with, they something that commands my attention, right? And then they pose the question that makes me curious and wonder, okay, like what if, like, is it even possible, right? And so that what it does to me is like, oh, it actually evokes the curiosity. So that's why I want to continue reading. Okay. And so then what do they do again without having to completely sacrifice your favorite carbs, okay? Like bread, pasta, and fruits or fruit, okay? And without having to suffer through all the other negative side effects of such a rigid diet. So what am I feeling here, okay? Well, I'm feeling here that they are making keto diet to be a negative diet, right? Like a negative experience. And so what I'm doing here, I'm thinking, okay, like so this sounds they position the diet as a very negative experience. Okay. So now I'm thinking, oh, interesting. So If I were to sell something, right, let's say in a weight loss category, right? For example, like people who want, lose and like quick results, blah, 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 right? They most likely will go for like some sort of keto diet, right? But if I position first a keto diet as something that very negative, and then I present a different solution, such as, for example, my program, as something positive, most likely people will lean towards, getting away from the negative and moving towards positive, right? But again, like this is something that I can sort of articulate now because I've been doing that for quite some time. But even then, like you still are able to figure out, okay, like there are saying, the things and telling them like, you could do all of that without this and without that, which is those things without are the negative things that the people don't want to do, right? So the audience doesn't want to do. So now what it does is like makes me even more curious. I want to continue reading. So this is some sort of a dance. What we call here is somewhat of a lead, right? Where we're trying to like dangle in the carrot, having the audience sort of wonder, we get curious so that they continue reading, right? And then we have, sounds exciting, okay? Asking the questions, yeah, if so, the breakthrough discovery will be, and then, kind of going, if so, this breakthrough discovery will be music music to your ears. Okay. So now I'm like, oh, okay. So they use words such as, breakthrough discovery, right? And like that sort of stuff. So I will actually sometimes outline and be like, oh, this is interesting. And then, I'm looking at and retyping and I'm just saying like, okay, like, so what they did is, they kind of like dangle the carrot a little bit. Then they started telling a bit of a story that there is a research, yada, yada, yada. And then I'm looking at everything else. So this is what I call active studying, right? Now, a lot of people might not want to do that, but really, when you think about it, when you spend, let's say, 30 minutes on studying an email like this or like a sales page or part of a sales page, you can get so many more golden nuggets out of it than versus just like, hand copying or versus just like reading a book or whatnot, right? And then my favorite thing to do is actually, let's say highlight some of the words, like keywords or key phrases that I actually enjoy, right? Let's see if I can figure out how to highlight. Oh, there we are. Right. And then what I will do is, and this is like a pro hack, is I will put it into the note on my phone or a Mac, right? And I'll just add it into like, like the common phrases that I could use in the future in different sales pages, emails, and so forth and so on to either describe, like some sort of similar issue or whatnot, right? Or use it in like totally different niche. But that is how you sort of build up your copywriting vocabulary. But how do you know which copy sample is good and which is not? And one of the best ways to do this is to sign up for big names in the fitness and health and money making online type of businesses, right? Go for the famous people, people like Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and Biotrust and the like. But if you don't want to do the hard work of researching the internet and trying to figure out what's good, what's not, you can access my massive swipe file where you can find 100 emails in various niches. Comes as a free gift with my book that I wrote. So check it out at fulltimefreedomformula.com. All right. So the next technique is what I call copy mimicking. And I've used this technique early on in my career to fast track learning and improve my copywriting skills. Doing this helped me deliver 10 times better results for my client than their in-house copywriter. So they hired me on a spot. Once you start doing that, you'll see how writing copy that sells like crazy is so much easier. So copy mimicking is simple. You take a piece of copy you actively study, then you take any product of your choice. It could be in the same niche, like a supplement, or it could be like a bottle or a pen or a mouse, doesn't really matter. And then you use the same structure to write that email to sell the new product. Now, fair warning, listen closely. Do not confuse copy mimicking with stealing or swiping word to word. This is not what we're doing. This is not what it's all about. What we're doing here is learning the copywriting language, the structure of the copywriting grammar, so to speak. Think of it when you are learning a new language. You have to practice it, right? So that with the practice, what happens is your brain creates the pathways so you can memorize things. It's the same with copy mimicking. All you're doing is mimicking the structure, the openings, the hook, the body, the words, the CTA, and all that stuff. Now, doing this helped me write an email for my first client that did better than their in-house copywriter, and that led to a 2-year working relationship and over $55,000 in profit in total. So let me show you what copy mimicking actually is. So let's take the example that I showed you. Right. So now with the copy mimicking, right? So what we do? Let's take the exactly the same email. So in this particular case, what I'm talking about is the problem is the stress. Okay. So with the stress and the product is probiotic. So the first connection I made, okay, so a lot of the, studies suggest, and, I've done it through the research, which is the next technique, but, I've done it, the research, and I've realized that there is a lot of issues that come from the gut that has to do with the nerves and whatnot. And so what I did here, I was okay, like, let me see what are the common things to help with the stress, right? To help with this particular, vagus nerve. And what happened here was I was like, right, like people would say, it's called exposure, it's like humming, singing, chanting, which I actually do quite often. And then, taking care of your gut, which is the probiotics. I was like, great, I'm gonna use this. Now, for example, if you want to sell the bottle of water, right, and it's sort of in the same supplement, what you could say is, you could do a similar idea. You could say maybe there is some sort of connection between drinking water, but you have to drink it in like a specific bottle. Let's say if you like Stanley cup you're selling, right? Or like a similar. And so what you would do is you say, like there is this thing that helps, like you could say like, did you know that you need to, so you would start with the question, right? You would say like, did you know that the best way to, get rid of stress so you can improve sleep, and so forth, drop weight and reduce inflammation is actually by drinking water, right? So we can potentially say that. Now, then I will explain, hook them in a bit more. Again, obviously I don't really know all the details, but hypothetically, let's say that, you could say like, now you might have heard that drinking water is important. But have you ever thought, why is that? Okay. And then you tell them, there are two reasons. There are two or like three reasons why. And I would do like the rehook again. And the third one is the most shocking one, right? Now, again, you could do something again, like give them analogy, right? So like you could do this, you could do that, like water, because they're like, or you would go here, like you see water is like a river. It feeds just like the river feeds the, everything around it, it waters the plants, it supplies the nutrients to the land so that people can grow, food. The same happens, the same thing water does for your body, right? So again, you kind of like play around with it, yada yada yada, right? Then you go into like maybe like something, the thing of like, like they're doing something which is them drinking water, but we need to make it so that, well, like drinking water from like a plastic bottle is bad for you, drinking water from like a simple is bad for you, and you want to explain why. But like here's what you could actually do is drink water from a stained steel cup, and then you sell the product, right? So in this case you would be saying something like, the like three reasons, right? The first one, or you could say, like you probably drinking, but here are, like three sort of reasons why, drinking water or like here's how actually drinking water might be making more harm than good. And you tell them, like, if you're drinking from, let's say, like your water from like a plastic bottle, well, you have no blah blah. And you also would say, the shocking one, because you want them to hook them in, like shocking reason why, it's bad to drink water, for example. And you would tell that, drinking from a regular cup is actually, there might be some sort of rust on them. Excuse me. So then the solution is actually drink from stainless steel cup, blah, blah, blah. And then what you go is like, you would say like, hey, you could go and buy from here and here and here, or you could go and actually buy from us because the reason for our product, they're better than anything else, yada yada yada, and that you present the product. So very similar, but this is what I mean by copy mimicking. Now it sounds like a bit complicated, but even if you take the same structure, right, you can give them the analogy, you hook them with a question, you tell them that, like, here are three ways, like, if you're not drinking enough water, this is what's going to happen, right? You give them the symptoms, right? So if you have any of the above, like, here are the three sort of things, or like even if you're drinking enough water but you still having those things, here are like three practices that actually, or drinking water practices that actually, making it worse for you. You tell them the one, you tell them the two, maybe you tell them the three, and then you give them the solution, right? So that's what I mean by copy mimicking. It is not stealing, it's not copying word to word, it's actually taking the idea and the structure and then playing with it. Now, this third technique is market research. Now, have you seen the new Jaguar ad? The internet is going bonkers, but I don't know if somebody either did that on purpose or they really had no freaking idea what they were doing. Because copywriting and marketing is only about one thing, and that thing is your clients and or customer. Claude Hopkins, one of the best copywriters ever lived, said this best: nobody reads or watches, in this case, ads for amusement. They only read it because there's something of interest to them. Your marketing is all about your customer, what they want, what they don't want, what they have, what they don't have, what their pain points are, and what their dreams are. So how do you know then what your audience wants or your clients wants, and if you don't do any research? So the question then becomes, how do you actually do that? Now, these days you can speed up the process with the AI and ask ChatGPT or Claude to give you summaries or even answer some of the questions related to the pain points and desires. But I personally like to go old school, call me old or whatever. The reason is, if I want to write copy that pays millions of dollars, I need to make sure that I evoke feelings in my audience. And feeling is what drives the action, and actions to, purchase whatever you sell. So for me to be able to do that, I need to spend some time with them and get to know them better. Think of it kind of sort of like dating, right? You don't really go and get married with the first person you've ever met in the first time, right? You gotta spend some time to get to know them. So the same really is here when you are writing and studying the new clients. And here's how I like to go about it. First one is I like to go on YouTube. Now, YouTube is a search platform. People go there and ask questions. This means you can easily find anything you need about the audience, what their pain points are, what they want, what they say, what they ask, the struggles. I watch the videos, I read the comments, and I get the feel of the languages they use to call their problem. The second one is Reddit. Now, I like going to Reddit because it allows me to see what questions the audience might have, because these questions are what stops them from buying the product. When I know the questions, I can answer them in my copy, which then eliminates objections and helps to boost sales. The third one is actually relay. Now, this tip is severely underrated, but it helped me write several Facebook ads for a client that generated over $100,000 in sales in one day. All I did was go to the source. I had friends who were the perfect image of the ideal customer, and I just talked to them. I asked them questions, and then I listened. I also asked them a lot of other things, and I listened. And then I took that information, I used it to write several winners for a client, and they actually still use those ads. And by the way, if you want to see a full breakdown of these ads, you might want to check out my copywriting community called Copy Continuum. This is where I share more applicable information that allows you to write copy that sells, land better clients, and have support from a 7-figure marketer and copywriter. You can find it school.com/copycontinuum. So the next technique to write copy that sells is actually mastering the art of storytelling. Think of the last time you went to a movie theater and you saw a really good movie. How did you feel after watching? Maybe you felt inspired, maybe you felt sad or motivated. That's what good storytelling does. It evokes emotion in people, and it's the emotion that lead to action, and it's this action that's going to lead to sales. Very simple. Now, there are a multitude of ways to learn how to write great story, but the first one is basically understanding what a hero's journey framework And don't worry, if you love reading fiction or if you're a sucker for good movies, you've definitely have seen that in real life. So the hero's journey is fairly simple, and you can Google it, but in a nutshell, you have a hero who has a problem and they go on a journey to discover a solution. They met with the resistance, they go through trial and error, and then they overcome the resistance, and then they find the solution, and basically they end. Now, this is a basic framework, and you can twist it and turn it and play with it every which way possible. But here's an example of email I wrote for a client that basically has that framework backed in. All right, here's the email, one of my favorite emails that I've ever written for a client. They were British supplement company, and I obviously wrote it when the Queen, Her Majesty the Queen, was still alive. But what I did here is I sort of baked in the story, right? I told about the Queen Elizabeth the second, and how she's feeling all that great and moving around. And the reason is because, she's actually, keeping her workouts as simple, it never skips it. And so it's a story. Like I'm telling him, a story. She believes it's what gives her endless amount of energy. So what is the secret, right? And I basically tell this is the answer is walking every day. She goes for a walk again. Like this is the story that I read, and I'm telling the story. She believes being active. The research supports. I'm adding a bit of a research, right? And then I'm telling a bit of a story about the research, that how it happened, about the shepherds who've lived, 200, blah, blah, blah. And then what I'm doing is very gently touching upon the idea, you could also try this product that does this, and that, right? So that's one example of sort of story framework building. So we have the character, right? This character, she has this, ooh, balloons. She has this sort of thing, she um, walks a lot, but and this is the reason why she walks a lot, blah, blah, blah. So that's one thing. All right, so here's one that I wrote for a company that I work with. And as you can see, it was like September 2021. And the product was turmeric. This is what we're selling. But I used um, actually, what did I use? I use a story, right? So here's the hook, right? I nearly disgraced myself in public. We have a customer, right? Rachel, who now I'm telling the story, she struggled with this thing, ensured inflammation, small intestine. So I'm telling a bit more about the story. And, stools can happen at any moment. Here's what happened. So this is basically the actual like or tadam, this is the culmination of her problem, right? Tell a little bit more. She had to go, blah, 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 right? And so then she found a guru, somebody who kind of offered her here's potential solution, right? Told her about, whatever. And that person gave her turmeric, right? And so what happened, she started using the turmeric. Now we tell a little bit more about the turmeric, how it works, yada, 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 and how it basically helped, when Rachel heard about this, she had nothing to lose in the end, yada, yada, yada. And so from there, what I did is told the story, how it helped, use the heroes framework, and we're good to go. All right, so the fifth technique is objection handling. Think of the time you were about to buy something online, and before you pull your credit card, you had a few questions. And when you didn't find the answers to those questions, you basically left thinking you'll come back to this one of those days, and you never actually did. Well, this happened because whoever wrote the copy didn't handle the objection. AI did not answer the questions in your head through copy. Objections are also the reasons why people didn't buy or don't buy. The reasons could be due to the past negative experiences, trust issues, budget concerns. They don't believe that they can do it, and they just don't trust themselves that they can actually reach the result. Now, here are a few examples in like a weight loss product objections. They could say, I've tried everything before, it's too expensive, sounds too good to be true, will it really work for me, and so forth and so on. Now, when you attack these objections throughout your copy, it'll remove the limitations and will help people make a buying decision. Now, depending on what type of copy you write, it will be either one objection at a time, in email or ad, or several, like in advertorial sales pages or video sales pages. Once this happens, you start delivering copy that sells, and your clients are going to be happy. Now, important note, there are a lot of business owners who make anywhere between $1 to $10 million a year, and they have copywriters in the house, right? And that copy is not really that great, right? So once you start implementing these techniques that I've shared with you to master the art of copywriting, you will be able to deliver insane results like I did, so you can get hired on a spot. These techniques help me replace dozens of in-house copywriters. That is it for this one. If you like this video and you get value out of this one, I host a community for people who want to master the art of copy to get more sales, which means this is, beginners and advanced copywriters, media buyers, business owners, coaches, and consultants. I post videos like this one. I provide weekly calls where I either offer feedback on your copy, share marketing wisdom on what is working right now, or where I break down the winners I wrote for clients live on calls. If you need copy to help improve your business, you should be in there. And you can try it for 14 days for free. Just go to school.com/copycontinuum. And lastly, let me know what you thought about this video in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.